Hi everybody, I'm Abigail.
Hi, and I'm Roberta.
And this is
The
Globe Speaks.
Welcome.
Welcome to another episode of The Globe Speaks.
Yes.
We have been talking about biblical characters in the Bible. And today we've got a special guest with us. She's not really a stranger, but she's no other than Emma. Whoa.
Hey, thank you, Emma.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about the character of Jacob. In our previous video, we talked about the overview of Jacob and how he came to be and what we could learn from him and such like that. So we've got Emma here today to give us her views and takes on Jacob.
Yes.
So without further ado, Emma.
Yay.
Do you remember the first time you actually heard the character of Jacob?
The first time I got introduced to Jacob was in Sunday school, because obviously growing up as a Christian, I used to be in Sunday school every Sunday.
I feel like everybody actually
True.
had like Bible characters from Sunday school and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's the first time I saw him and got to like read the story and kind of see the way he was.
And has your impression of him changed since then?
I feel like definitely it has, because at first when I saw him I was like, oh, this is not isn't like a bad person. Obviously you do get good and bad characters in the Bible, but I was like, oh, this isn't nice. And then you kind of had sympathy for the brother compared to him. But now growing up you kind of realize that actually Jacob was just doing as it was supposed to be. And so now it's like, okay, he's not too bad. He's human.
Yeah.
I like that. How you put that into human, because we tend to forget. And it's funny actually you mentioned that you had like a negative image of him, because now if someone asks me about Jacob, that's not really the first thing I actually think about anymore. I think of the positive things, the things that came after that. But before we rush into that, we'll ask you the next question then. So your views of him have changed, right? So I assume they're now more positive, because you said that he's now fulfilling the things that God wanted him to fulfill in that sense. So what do you think is the purpose of Jacob's story in the Bible then? Do you think it has some sort of purpose for us? Like, what can we learn from him, or
Yeah, that's a good question. I think everything in the Bible has a purpose, and there's certain reasons why you have to see characters in a way, because obviously this is like, you can look at it from like the first time we see Jacob and his twin brother Esau, they were in the womb, and then you kind of see them growing up, so it's kind of like childhood to adulthood. So I feel like
development.
So as you see that, then you kind of see, so you can relate to it more, because obviously as a young person you're kind of looking for Bible characters, because you're thinking, okay, everyone's like 67 plus Abraham. I mean, how can I relate to it? But now this is like the first characters that you see that are actually young, even though we don't see much of their like development and growth. You kind of see how they were growing up. There was one who was like a hunter, Esau, who was always like more outside, and then there's one who's just in the house with his mom helping to cook. So you kind of see that dynamic in how they both worked. And then in this story, the purpose, I think, is to always kind of, there's a lot of purposes that we can talk about, but I think the first one is kind of just to always have faith that everything will work out, and just to obey, because obviously we see that Jacob's in the house with his mom, and then Esau's outside, so they kind of just obeyed. But obviously the story then goes on to show that Jacob gave his kind of deceived his dad rather than doing what he wanted. But really it was more the mum's obedience that he was following, because the mum told him to do that. So in a way you're kind of like, okay, but why did the mum tell him to do that? But then he still listened, so it's like, okay, but you're a good son. So there's a lot of purposes to this story that you can grow, but as in that's just what I get.
No, sorry, I was going to say I should put you on the spot there, because there are like lots of lessons, and that's the beauty about the Bible. I feel like through each story or character, there's just one person can read it and can take away something from it, and someone else can read it and take away another thing from it, but it's all in conjunction at the same time.
And also, mind you, every like different stages of your life, when you read it you can get like different things out of it. So one time, like maybe in the stage of your life, you read it and be like, oh, I never thought of this before, and then you read another stage of your life and you're like, why did I not get this the first time, kind of thing. So like I guess it kind of like in the way the characters are kind of like built to have like different purposes depending on what you're going through. I think
that makes sense, actually. And I actually like what you were saying about the natural is it the natural aspect? So it's like the fact that we can relate to,
Yeah.
because I don't know about you guys, but like when you think of God is like very like divine, like he's so powerful.
Yeah.
And then when we see stories like the story of Jacob and Esau, brothers, I have a sister right here, just in case you guys didn't know. You know, a brother and a brother like having some sort of like that relationship, the dynamics being so different.
Yeah.
And then still God works through this family. You can relate a lot to it.
Yeah.
So I see that aspect of it, like, okay, the story is there for us to see ourselves through these characters, which is quite amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
So coming back to that then, do you find anything inspiring about the whole story of Jacob?
Yeah,
Jacob's
definitely. Jacob is somebody inspiring because even though he started out being deceitful, we see him going like later on in the Genesis 25 that he then had to run away from home after he did this. Obviously he's got his blessing, but then after running away he had to kind of, now that's being alone, there's no family, there's no one with him, but he's still saying, you know, God, I'm going to be with you, I just want you. And you're like, okay, that's a crazy faith, because how can you're thinking, God, but I'm just doing what was told by my mom, but yet you're just here making me leave my house.
It's very real, isn't it? Because it puts you in a situation where, like, you would assume like Jacob will be fine. Like he gives you that character of like he's passive. He wants, when he wants something, he's gonna get it. But then you find him in like these moments where he's feeling like, the humanity of him comes out, where he seeks God instead. So it's just like, again, like re-emphasizing our relationship that we have with God. And
that, but even the perseverance and the way that Jacob just goes through it all, even as we see later on in the story when he works with his uncle, and like the 7 years and then another 7 years, all that is so inspiring to see, because even though now that we're like at this age, you're thinking, where am I going to be in the next 5 years? What does the future look like? But actually, Jacob just goes to show you that you can just keep going through it. So that's what I find inspiring.
Even though, like, in a way, there was kind of like a roadblock for him because he wanted Rachel. But then Laban, is that his name? Said, oh, actually, you have to go for Leah. And then said, okay, so if I go for Leah, can I now also work for Rachel?
Yeah, that's true.
And then he also persevered again another 7 years to go for Rachel. So
I was just gonna say, so do we see a little bit of Jacob in us? Like, is there a time where you felt like you probably embodied this character of Jacob a little bit?
Like, I think so. Yeah.
Care to elaborate?
Like sometimes when you're like thinking of doing something and you're like, oh, I see this, I want to do this, but then for some reason there's a roadblock, and then you go and do something else. You're like, but I really want to do this, but I feel like also in sometimes when you veer off, it's kind of like for you to actually kind of evolve in your attitude and your character to be able to get to what you really want, because maybe if you actually went for it straight away, you may not actually achieve it like the way you want to. So you needed to kind of like get that growth to be able to get it that way. So I think
that's interesting. I was just thinking even that, but even the fact that he had to kind of leave what he knows behind to kind of go to the next phase, because like he leaves all his family, but even for like when we went to university, you kind of just couldn't do it with your family. Like you just have to do certain things alone in life to be able to get you to that like new environment, new challenges, because otherwise you're going to be too comfortable in where you are and you're not going to be able to grow to like the next phase of your life. So I feel like that's something as well.
Okay, no, I'm just
what about you?
It's very, I know, it's very interesting, because I feel like, again, when Emma said her first impression of Jacob was something that was negative, I feel like, and it's mainly because of, again, we get the whole idea of him stealing his brother's birthright.
But then again, Emma says something about it being a prophecy. So
but in that sense, could you say that, you know, Jacob was obviously doing things his own way, even though God has spoken? You know, God, his word will come to pass regardless. He's sort of taking things into his own hands because of his nature. He decided, okay, I'm gonna prepare this meal knowing that my brother is gonna choose that over.
But going back to the prophecy again, sorry, I just got it in my head. So going back to the prophecy again, then when would he have actually achieved that prophecy if not the time that he did it?
We don't know. I don't know. That's one thing. You know, one thing I always say is that we don't enjoy how can you enjoy the trip? I always say it, but I recently came across. How can you enjoy the trip when you don't know the destination, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we don't know. God works in mysterious ways. So maybe God would have planted a seed somewhere where,
that's true.
you know, one thing I also just realized that, and as we were talking, is that the custom was that the eldest will get the birthright.
Yeah.
The blessed right.
Yeah.
In one way, like, God still used the custom to and used even though he chose Jacob, because Jacob was so fixed on this birthright thing, like, how it almost like, I might be wrong in saying this, but this is what I'm getting from it. Like, maybe Jacob was like, he didn't understand how he was going to be the chosen one. So he's like, in order for me to get that, I have to get the birthright, because you get double possessions and all this thing. But God, so when you ask how could God have like done that, like how could he have done that without, God didn't need Jacob to have a birthright to do it.
That's
but
true.
But because Jacob used, so what I'm trying to say is like the natural customs that they were used to, God still used this those natural situations to still bless him in a way because of what his actions. I don't know if I'm clear on that.
It's true. No, I think that makes sense, because
he could have done it outside
when he was coming in, why did he suddenly ask for the birthright? Like, he could have just said, here, have the stew.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but because of man's knowledge, it's like, how do I obtain it? And we can see that in all the characters. Sorry, I'm now it's just clicking in my head.
Even in Sarah, when they were trying to have a child with Abraham, the same thing happened. She went out of her way to do something, but then that wasn't God's plan. Even though she created like a different generation and like all that, she still went outside the normal way that God would have used.
Yeah, because she was trying to think how can physically manifest as basically
what Jacob and Sarah were doing is just trying to quicken God's blessings. Like, hurry up, I want it now.
So Jacob's like, oh, I'm tenacious. His name, Jacob. You know, he's a heel catcher, whatever. He's like, oh, I can get it. Let me go. And her mom is encouraging him. Yeah, you can get it. Like, so it's very interesting. Like, So
I think that's what a lot of people do. That we always try and be like, okay, God, I see the vision, but when is this vision happening? Because I'm not trying to be here for like how many years? Like, I need to see this now, but it's not happening.
But like I said, sometimes you need the growth to be able to get to the destination.
That's the thing, and I really like that in the story of Jacob. So in that sense, like, we've talked about a couple of lessons that we can learn from it, because like God is faithful regardless of whether you intervene or you interfere. You know, he can use your weaknesses in that sense, or your situations that you created for yourself, to still fulfill his word. Like, he doesn't say, oh, you've gone out your way to do it your own way, now it's up to you. And then we have the whole sense of growth, development, because we learn later down the line that Jacob also got deceived by his uncle. Should we talk about that?
That's true.
That's true.
So many things happen.
But then would you say that it's because his own fault for deceiving his father, so it's coming back to him? But obviously we don't know. Is God punishing him? Who knows? We don't know. That's life.
It could be a lesson. So if you try to interfere with the what God has told you, and it's not in His will, it can cause problems and situations for yourself. So then, you know, we've talked a lot about it, but then how can we, I guess, apply? Have you had a situation where you've had to like apply the lessons that we've learned from Jacob's story into your life? It can be anything, really, any aspect of the story of Jacob.
I think a lot of it is, even now as we're talking through it, I'm going to apply a lot of the things that I've learnt today, because the faithfulness, like going through it, like even in like work and like education, you have to just start from the bottom and kind of work your way up. So even where I am now in terms of work, it may not be where I want to be, but I have to just keep going and believing that God has a bigger plan for me in the end, because like I know my goals, but I can't now be trying to do it my way, even though I'm trying.
Not try to interfere with God's
God's promise. So I just have to be faithful and know that there's a bigger plan.
Patience is something that came out of my head while you were saying that as well. That's definitely something that we realized not all these Bible characters we talk about never really had it like instantly. It took them time to, like you said, develop and grow. Abigail was saying, like, develop and grow to understand that, okay, God is God. He's faithful. If He promised you, He's not going to leave you or forsake you. And then we have to be patient, because we don't know when. Like you said, how is it going to happen? So we don't know. So that's very important. Abigail, anything else to add on that aspect?
No. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay, next time. Okay, so we would like to thank you so much, Emma, for being in this segment.
Thank you for having me.
No worries about that. And if you're watching at home and you've enjoyed the discussion today, today and you want to give your own input, feel free to comment in the comment section below. What are your thoughts and anything you also agree with, or anything that we haven't talked about that you've also got from the story of Jacob? We would be very interested to know. Now, if you're also watching this and you are ready to, give your life to Christ, you're ready to also join our big family, we are the church, then feel free to say this prayer of acceptance with us. Dear Lord, thank you for loving me and sending your son Jesus to come and die for my sins so that I can have life. Sorry for living my life outside of your presence and ruling. Please help me to grow in faith and in my ability to trust in you daily. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you all so much for watching, and make sure to tune in next time for when we put our next video up. You can follow us on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram to stay updated. So we will see you in our next video. Bye.
Bye.